This is Grim. His uh, opinion is reading and writing. He is essentially about um, random story and uncertain storytelling, or something sort of like a video game but with words, where you don't know what's going to happen but you interact with the environment as you tell the story. Um, because of the subject matter, there's not going to be much like stuff other than me talking, but we'll get into it. So, um, his metaphysics is basically the idea that stories are recordings of other universes. You don't have to believe that to do what I'm doing. It's like a metaphysical idea that goes along with it. But um, in a universe or in a multiverse that is completely infinite in every possible way, there is always a convergent universe with a story. Um, that means that any story is a recording of some event that took place somewhere. Not because it's a camera, but because you wrote it down and it happened to converge separately from the book and that world. So, like, it's not that the story is the world. Could be if you wanted it to be the same kind of thing, but the the world and the story both exist and both happened separately as two different things. And this allows not much, but it allows you to explore other worlds in that sense, because under the pretext of an infinite multiverse, anything would occur, and thus your story would have occurred at some point and always. But that is his metaphysical proposition, and he thinks of it as a way to study how they behave. Um, sorry, the camera cut out. Um, different worlds behave differently. Um, your dreams work this way too, in certain ways. I took a nap between the last video and this video, and I had a cool dream, but kind of a weird dream. Um, we won't get into that, but stories are a great way to tell a story, and with the story, you can write all kinds of stuff. But if you don't plan the story, then you don't know what happens. And that is what we're doing today. The difficulty is everyone knows how to write a story, they just usually plan it out. And planning the story is cool. It's just that when you don't plan it out, it becomes more like a video game, where you give yourself rules as you move along in the story, and you follow those rules, and the result is unexpected because you get a new idea as you move the story along, and then things happen, and it's more like a dream and less like a story, but it's still a story, and you can touch it up after. But for the most part, it's still, if you could do that with virtual reality, that'd be cool, but you need to scan your brain and give it the words that it can use. But that is a different thing entirely. Um, um, that's about it. You can also use dice and like random ideas or like tarot cards, and you can do this very similar thing where you have random events occur based off of the dice or the story or the tarot cards. In each case, you get an original story that you'd never heard of before. And yeah, that is about it for that. That's what he does. But I think I'm going to add a little bit more after this about not interacting so much as tracking them. Because interacting is just like you talk to a person in the story and they respond and things happen. But tracking the orbits of your stories is an interesting thing. We won't use my dream because my dream is weird and it's confusing me right now. But the orbit of worlds, we'll look at that. Alright. This scene parallels my story very well because there was a cat staring at nothing in the air. But I completed the context issue in my dream by just writing a random sentence on paper, and it makes sense, so I'll be back. Dream, kind of complicated, but there was a part where it was weird, but Grimm was there, funny enough, and he was horrified by a dragon and a rabbit woman, and I saved them, but the dragon looked a lot like my dragon, and I fought him, and he died, and then he went and became a frog and turned back into a dragon at the lake. So the story has now moved from my dream into text, and when this occurred, my cat came over, and that was part of the dream too. Oh wait, cat. And she's still distracted by something that isn't there, like wires, which look like a dragon. Which means the dragon's back. Yeah. The video about teleportation that I did isn't the best way to teleport. The best way to teleport is just a dream. But that is kind of related to this subject, kind of not. Dreams are weird though. But I don't know what I was doing there. I was delivering a letter, and then shit happened, and then I was moved to a different location. But I don't know. Anyways, Grimm has puppies apparently that sit on his office chair, and he cooks food for people. And yeah, when you go to his office, there's food. I made a mess of his food because I didn't know how to use his machine that stored the food. Weird dream, but I don't even know. I made it to the end of the dream though. I didn't die once. But yeah. Okay. So the symbols in his picture are the carpet, which represents staying in your comfort zone when writing stories, because that helps both write the story and not freaking out when you start making uncertainty, which is what this symbol represents, and connecting those stories together and different parts of reality together to create orbits of universes and places outside your range. And the window represents the way you can use it as a window to another world. And that's about it. This isn't a very long video because it's still very unfalsifiable and can't really be shown. I don't know if it can ever be shown, but it's a cool concept. And you can mess with it some more to produce various effects. Those effects are based off of how you manipulate the concept with other things, and we'll get into that in the next one. So, I'll be back.